leave your thoughts in that comment section. All right, now moving forward. This past weekend, we got a chance to see Death on the Nile. Follows famous detective Hercule Poirot as he investigates the murder of a young heiress. This is based on the novel by Agatha Christie, which was also made into a film in 1978. This is the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express, which was made into a film in both 2017, obviously the predecessor to this film, and in 1974. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, I watched the original, at least I believe it's the original, Murder on the Orient Express film from 1974, and it's a fantastic film. Albert Finney is amazing as Hercule Poirot. It's a Sidney Lumet film. He's one of my favorite directors ever. But in terms of that, in comparison to this, like, the best thing about Death on the Nile is honestly Kenneth Branagh. You know, he directed the film. I don't know if he co-wrote the script, but he played Hercule Poirot. He's the best thing about this film. He's the best character in the entire film. He's very witty. He's very entertaining to watch. Like, honestly, loved him. And if it wasn't for him, I feel like this movie wouldn't have been nearly as enjoyable, because there's an obvious affection for, like, what he was doing here, like, you know, the source material and everything like that. I'm going to pretend like I read the original novel.
Yeah, parts of me, I'm a mixed bag with this, mainly because of just how dry the overall film actually felt on certain occasions. And when I say dry, I mean it lacked a bit of, I don't know, it lacked a bit of, not necessarily heart, but just some of the performances just did not come across that well. And again, it felt lackluster. And
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it felt lackluster. And again, it's weird because I did like, I liked certain aspects of it. I liked the fact that this was also, you know, a whodunit type of film, and I liked figuring out who it was, even though I kind of figured it out early on. That's just me. But overall, it felt lackluster. I thought some of the acting also felt and looked very wooden. It felt like as if they were trying to really replicate Knives Out, but they couldn't do it that well. And it was a hit and miss on certain occasions. There were certain reveals I did like. There were certain, I guess, character moments that I did feel, that the tender moments I did feel for in a certain way. But again, it felt lackluster in a lot of aspects when it came to even some visual effects, even some even character motivations and character depth. Like, it just wasn't really all there. The big standout for me was really, you know, the detective, really, but everyone else, everything else just felt meh.
It was fairly forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, I know, like, it's weird. Like, I guess they were somewhat entertaining and interesting across the board. Like, some characters and performances were better than others, but it's nothing I'm going to remember for a while. You know, and again, this is a big cast too. You have Gal Gadot, you have Armie Hammer, Letitia Wright, Annette Bening, Sophie Okonedo, Russell Brand. Like, I was kind of surprised to see him in this film. Like, I thought I recognized him. I'm like, is that Russell Brand? Like, I literally looked up on IMDb in the middle of watching the movie. I'm like, yeah, it's Russell Brand. And even then, like, I'm going to be brutally honest, he's not really given much to do here. And as far as, like, what you're saying, like, how the film felt like lackluster, like that, I feel like that's a really good way to put it. There's, like, a sort of, it's weird. Like, I don't know how much heart, like, the film was intended to have, but there's definitely a certain sizzle that I feel like could have been very useful here in making it stand out. And I just feel like it didn't have it.
Yeah, exactly. And it also felt, even some of the pacing felt odd. It felt as if, it was start, then stop, start and stop, and almost too quickly at certain occasions. And other times it's just slow and doesn't really progress until something actually needs to happen as a shock value and not necessarily for the sake of the story going forward. And I also think when it comes to these type of stories, with whodunit type of films and figuring out who the murderer is, that sort of thing, some of the actors show too much. You know, they don't really hold back necessarily. And that's one of the things I loved about Knives Out, was that everyone was so freaking good in their roles that you could barely tell who actually probably have done it. And just the demeanor they also come across. Whereas in this one, some of the acting with some of the characters felt a bit too forced, that this is this character, to the point where, to me at least, it was easily I was easily able to dissect who the murderers were really in like the first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes. I already had a feeling and I already knew because it's like I already knew the angle they were going for because they showed a bit too much and I guess some of their body language. So I was just like, yeah, I know where this is going.
Yeah. And it's weird too, like going back to what I was saying about like the whole sizzle aspect of it all. There were certain aesthetics about the film that did look nice, like, like costumes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird, like looking at the film, there's something that felt very CGI,
very artificial.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like that it was kind of distracting at certain points.
Oh yeah, it was very distracting for me actually in the beginning because it was just so obvious, and I was just like. Like it took me out of the movie way too many times in the beginning. I just felt meh, like meh.
Yeah, and again, like I had a good time watching this. Don't get me wrong, but like it definitely didn't blow me away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it definitely makes sense that it's a February release. So it's like we've said too that like a lot of like the movies that aren't looking so great, like they come out in the beginning of the year. Unless you're Jackass Forever, which totally different story. But no, it definitely makes sense that there's a February release. For all you guys, did you actually get a chance to check out Death on the Nile? Like what did you think if you did? Leave your thoughts in whatever comment section that you can. And now, just a reminder, don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications whether you're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and more. If you want to help out the show, please give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you can, and follow our social media pages that are listed in the description.